Do you want to stay up to date with the messiest drama on the internet? Or what about those crazy viral challenges? Then be sure to tune in to TMZ Verified, the podcast. I'm Wild.
I'm Steph.
And each week we're either breaking down the spicy viral stories or we're hanging out with the most popular influencers around. Tana Mojo is in the building.
I don't even know if they're hating. They're probably just telling the truth, but we love the haters too.
Sophia Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk, but let's be real with each other, you know?
Bryce Hall is here, y'all. Make some noise, people.
I'm single, by the way.
Right.
So if you like viral drama, influencer culture, and just overall hot messiness, check out new episodes of TMZ Verified every Thursday right here on Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mrs. Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 194 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Rick Wills from Foreigner, I want to remind you about everything you can find online at mistresscarrie.com. Not only can you find every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast and every sit rep, but every episode of my weekly video show, Cocktails in the War Room. You can read my blog, keep up with all of the concerts and appearances in New England with the concert calendar, send me a message right here in the studio, and you can get hooked up with Mistress Carrie gear in the online Mistress Carrie store. Find all of that and more at mistresscarrie.com. Last week, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced the nominations for induction into the class of 2024. Fan voting is open through April 26th. The list of nominees includes Eric B. and Rakim, Oasis, Mary J. Blige, Kool and the Gang, Jane's Addiction, Cher, Ozzy Osbourne, Peter Frampton, A Tribe Called Quest, Mariah Carey, Sinead O'Connor, Sade, the Dave Matthews Band, Lenny Kravitz, and Foreigner. So when I got the chance to talk to Rick Wills, the bass player from Foreigner, about what the nomination meant and the possibility of induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I couldn't pass it up. He is a member of rock and roll royalty, not only as a member of Foreigner, but Cochise, Bad Company, and so many other bands and projects. He is a living legend, and I was so excited to talk to him. So, allow me to introduce you to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominee, Rick Wills from Foreigner. Hello! Oh my God,
Hello,
Rick, it's
Miss
so
Carrie.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. It's good to be here.
You must be so busy right now.
I have rather a lot on my plate, as they say.
Congratulations, first and foremost, for getting nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. We're very thrilled to have been finally included after waiting over 20 years for this honor. And we are very excited about this whole opportunity, you know. So we're asking all our fans out there and everyone else to vote for us if they can.
I put the link in the show notes of this episode so people can vote.
Okay, yeah, it's vote.rockhall.com.
Yep.
And we would really appreciate everyone voting for us as much as possible.
The qualification for induction is, first of all, 25 years from the date of your first release, which Foreigner has long since surpassed. When I talked to Alice Cooper, who got inducted years ago, and is someone who votes for the nominations, when I asked him what qualifies for him, he said it doesn't necessarily have to be album sales, but influence on music, that music is different because that artist existed.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, actually. I think he's right, because, what we set out to do, well, Mick and Lou especially from day one, was to write good songs that lasted, and they have. I mean, they've really lasted the time over the years. I mean, 40 years ago when I joined the band in 79, I couldn't have ever imagined that today I'd still be sitting here talking to you about Foreigner, and it would still be meaningful because the music has lasted that long. It's really amazing for us to see that the current band that's out on the road, who we love to get out and play with from time to time. Obviously, we're rather late in our years now, some of us, and don't really like the traveling so much as we used to, but we still enjoy it very much. And, each one of us has had our various little issues over the years with health and stuff. Mick, Lou especially have had issues. And really, Al and I are about the only two these days that get out and do shows with the band. And it's a real pleasure because those guys are so good and they do such a good job of representing Foreigner in every way that they should. And they know that they've got a good catalogue of music to choose from to play for the shows, and the crowds have been amazing. I mean, they're selling out show after show after show. It's exciting still.
Foreigner 4 was one of the first albums that I saved up with my own money to buy when I was a kid. I was a very early music adopter when I was really, really little because my parents introduced me to rock music in the house. And I just remember looking at that album cover and, you guys had some of the best hair in music back then too.
Some of us still have. Yeah, I mean, it kind of thins out a little bit as you get older. But, when we started that album, we had cut the band down to 4 members instead of 6. Al and Ian were let go, shall we say, which I thought was rather unfortunate, as I didn't really have much to do with that. It was down to Mick and Lou making a decision about where they were going to go with the next album. Because Head Games, although it had been successful, it wasn't as successful as we'd hoped. And I think that was partly to do with the album cover of the girl being in the gentry urinal. That didn't go down too well with some of the people who stacked these albums in record shops and stuff, and they thought it was a bit risque, shall we say. Whereas we thought it was good fun, actually, because it sort of added it all up, the idea of Head Games.
It's rock and roll, come on.
It's rock and roll, that's right. But I still love listening to that record personally, because for me that was my first, and I still remember it so vividly. Recording in New York on Broadway at the Atlantic Studios, and the first thing I ever did cut was a track called "Dirty White Boy," and it just went on from there because the band chose me, I think, because they wanted to beef up the rhythm section and had more of a bottom line to it, more basically. That's how I like to play. That's how the sound I like. Whereas Ed previously had a more trebly, shall we say, Rickenbacker type sound in the band. And I think they wanted it to be, just stronger. And we certainly achieved that with Roy Thomas Baker producing, because he really pumped up the drums and bass on that album. It was good.
I was amazed when I was looking into your career to prepare for this interview that Foreigner has 10 multi-platinum albums, more hit songs than Journey, and rivals Fleetwood Mac, When you talk about qualifications for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it doesn't get any better than that.
Well, thank you so much for telling everyone, because that's what we've already known, and we've known for a long time that's where we are. But, you just can't go around boasting about things like that, because both bands, Journey and Fleetwood Mac, are great bands in their own right. We're just happy to be part of that genre of what we do has been recognized as, ready to be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, providing everyone votes for us. And we need the votes. We really do. Peter Frampton, who I used to play with, as you know, he's ahead of us by about 1,000 votes at the moment. And, I'm not happy about that. But good luck to him. I mean, Peter and I are still good friends, and I really hope on the day that we get inducted that we'll both be there on the night to do the show together, along with Ozzy, because, I mean, Ozzy's a great guy. He's a character who I've met a few times, and, he's got a lot of fans because of the way he is, and he deserves to be up there as well. So there's quite a few other people. But at the moment, we are the top three. There's Ozzy, Frampton, and Foreigner. And I'm very proud to play with both bands, obviously. Very happy.
You've played with a lot of amazing artists over the years. You obviously mentioned Frampton. You've played with David Gilmour. You played with the Small Faces. You played with Bad Company. The amount of music you've created in your career, where's the weirdest place you've bumped into your music? Supermarket, elevators, there's got to be a really strange place.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is strange when you hear our music sometimes, because it's still a thrill to do that. I mean, one of the most strangest things I've done in my career was I got asked to play with Lynyrd Skynyrd, of all bands, who I knew very well from Bad Company, playing with them on tour. And I was very surprised when the bass player went into rehab, because he had a bit of a problem, shall we say. And they called me and said, "Rick, would you come and help us out while he's away?" And I did for about 6-8 weeks. I did with Lynyrd Skynyrd. And I must admit, I felt a bit like a fish out of water, because they're Southern boys, I mean, they really do know how to do the Southern thing. Whereas I'm not like that too much. I'm more than Englishman, So, it was fun, though. It was great. The guys in the band are great. I mean, they're pretty crazy, but it was a good thing to do. But I have to say, when it came to an end and Leon came back to the band, I was very happy to come home as well. It's just the way it is. But, it's been an exciting life for me. I mean, I've had 50-odd years of playing in bands, starting out really from Cambridge in England, where David Gilmour and I grew up, very much in the same area of Cambridge. David was in a local band and I was. We were both very competitive. I could see exactly where things were going with David, because not only was he a great guitar player, he was also a very good-looking guy. And girls really liked him, and so did a lot of other people. So when he got the opportunity by a guy called Jonathan King, who had a massive hit in England with Everyone's Gone to the Moon, he was at college at Cambridge at the time, used to keep his eye on Dave at the local shows, and said, "I really want to take you to London to meet a couple of friends," who happened to be Brian Epstein, Beatles manager, and Andrew Oldham, Stones manager. And they took a liking to David too. They said, "Look, we think we could do something with you, but we want you to form your own band and go away to abroad and get it together," as they say, And that's what happened. He came back to Cambridge and we met up in a pub. And he said, "Rick, would you be interested in moving to London with me and forming this band with Willie Wilson on drums?" I said, "Dave, I couldn't be happier to be helping you out." Because, we'd done the Cambridge thing already. We were well known in Cambridge as the local guys. So to go to London and start out again and move on and go sent to Spain, we were sent to Spain in 1966, this was 1966. It was a pretty big deal in those days to do that, because we had to take our equipment on the train with us to go first from England to France, through France to Spain, and then right across Spain down to Marbella in the south. That was a hell of a trip. And meanwhile, when we got to France, our equipment somehow got misplaced from us. We went on to Paris, and there was no equipment. We didn't know where it was. So it was a bit scary at first, but we made it through. And I'm so proud.
You bring up Brian Epstein. Last week was the 60th anniversary of the Beatles playing that iconic show on Ed Sullivan that changed everything. Is it even possible to measure the influence on rock and roll that moment and the Beatles had in general?
I mean, they just were a phenomenon from the day one. I mean, the first time I heard Love Me Do on the radio, I thought, wow, that's so different and so good. And the way they looked with the hair, the way they had the presence, they had the humor. They were funny. They were, they were articulate. They just had everything. The talent was there. I mean, for me, Paul McCartney stands out as being the most incredible all-round performer in my lifetime, I think. He's such a genius at what he does. And he's still doing it in his 80s. He plays 3-hour shows. That's amazing, I think.
Fellow bass player as well.
Yes. Well, I love the way he plays bass, by the way. I really do admire him. He and John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin are probably my two favorite rock sort of bass players, rather. Along with John Bonham, unfortunately, who is not with us anymore, was my favorite rock drummer because I just couldn't believe what noise he could make. And he sat in with us a couple of times when I was in a band called Cochise. And God, it was hard to keep up with him. He was a powerhouse drummer. There's no doubt about it. I've never seen another drummer quite like it, actually.
I don't think we ever will again.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I've had the chance to play with people like Keith Moon, Kenny Jones, all these great drummers. But, John Bonham was in a class of his own. I really think so.
I read a quote from Geddy Lee who said, "Nobody intends to be a bass player. They start out as a guitar player and you get in a band and then you get voted in." Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, I was a guitarist. I used to play rhythm. I was okay as a rhythm guitarist, but I knew I would never be a lead guitarist because I just wasn't thinking like that. And I took a liking to the bass. I really loved the way the bass sounded and how it looked. I think it's a cool instrument. And I took it up. And that the band said, "Look, I think it's a good choice for you to play bass now." And I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the challenge. All the bands I've been in was a challenge, with all the different forms and styles you have to learn. But I think I made the right choice. It's got me through life. It's doing okay.
You've jumped up on stage with Foreigner a couple of times in New England. I heard a rumor you moved to New Hampshire. Is that true? Are you a fellow New Englander?
In New Hampshire. Yes, I do. Yes, I'm up close to where you guys are. I spent 6 months of my year in New Hampshire because I don't like the summers here in Florida. I'm in Florida now I'm a snowbird, let's call it that, It's damn cold up in New England right now, that's for sure. But I'm very fortunate. Life has been very kind to me, and I can afford to have a home here and a home there. And my wife and I are very happy to be able to do that. And as our life gets, more rounded, and this thing with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has really, really given us a buzz because we never thought it was going to happen. We kind of gave up on the idea, but it did. And we were so happy to see that our name had been added that we thought, well, we've got to do something about this. And my press lady, Vanessa, she said, "Rick, you're going to get a lot of requests for interviews for this." I said, "That's fine by me. I like doing it." So here I am, just enjoying my life.
One of the things I always ask people when they come on the show, this is a songwriting question. Can you give me an example of a song by any artist, any genre that you think is a perfect example of the craft of songwriting? A song that you think is perfectly written, and tell me why.
Well, I would like to say one of the Beatles songs I absolutely adore is "We Can Work It Out," the B-side. And I thought that was the most perfect song when I heard it. It's just the way McCartney sings it. and the whole structure of the song itself is perfect to my ear. You know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but at the same time, I also think some of the songs that Mick and Lou wrote for Foreigner, for instance, Waiting for a Girl Like You, I think is pretty much the perfect song as a ballad you can get. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I know I Want to Know What Love Is was huge. But when they played me the first idea of Waiting for a Girl Like You, I just thought, if that's not number one, I said, I don't know what is. And it got to number two because Olivia Newton-John held us off with a song called Physical. And God bless her, you know, she's a great artist, as we all know. But we thought, well, one day we've got to get that number one spot. And I Want to Know What Love did that for us. You know, that was there. So we're very happy with our careers. I mean, we've had, I think it's 16 top 20, 30 songs in charts, which is very good. I mean, it's a pretty damn good record, that. And obviously, all of us, Mick, Lou, Dennis, Al, myself, we're all very proud of the fact that we've been part of Foreigner.
You are up for induction. The fan voting is open now. When you get the call, which I am confident you will, you've got then the pressure of who to thank and how to give that speech in front of the entire rock world, because you only get one crack at it.
Well, I'm sure we'll come up with something. I mean, that's just the way we are, you know, because we're all pretty capable of talking, you know, on radio or doing interviews with magazines, papers, and whatever. So I think we'll be okay. Obviously, we're going to have to think about it and work on it, what we say and what we do. But I'm looking forward to the opportunity to perform again with Mick, Lou, Dennis, Al, myself, and see how it goes, because I think it'll be a very special night for us if we get inducted.
The Styx Foreigner Renegades and Jukebox Heroes tour is going to roll through the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts this summer. You should be in New Hampshire by then. I am holding out hope you're going to make the ride to Massachusetts and jump up on stage with the band.
I might just do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually do the show in New Hampshire in Guilford.
The Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion.
Yeah. I love doing that because it's such a lovely venue as well. You know, so I kind of pick and choose what I do. I'm going to do one here in Florida next month in St. Augustine, which is, you know, for me, a drive of about 4 hours from where I live. But that's okay because, again, the guys in the band now are so respectful and very loving, very kind to us when we turn up. It's a pleasure. It really is to be there and perform at the end of the show with them.
Jeff Pilson doesn't get upset when you nudge him out of the way and go, look out, kid, I'm coming in.
No, Jeff's a great guy. He's lovely. I mean, he's done such a great job of being musical director for the band. And he cares passionately about how well they played the songs. I mean, we talk about it off stage. You know, he says, I hope I got that right, Rick, and I hope I got your notes right. I said, Jeff, you're doing just fine, baby. You're really doing fine, as they all are. Kelly Hansen is the most incredible frontman. I mean, he really is. He's so good at it. And he involves the audience so well in the nicest possible way. So, yeah, it's good.
Well, congratulations. Nomination for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a huge accomplishment and a long time coming and very well deserved.
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Carrie.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
There he is, Rick Wills from Foreigner, or should I say Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominee, Rick Wills from Foreigner. If you check the show notes of this episode, there's a link for you to vote for Foreigner and all of the other nominees that you think should get inducted as part of the class of 2024. You'll also find a link for all of the Styx Foreigner, Renegades, and Jukebox Hero dates in New England this August. You'll find all of Foreigner's links and the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll find all the Mistress Carrie links too. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep, with all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates, and you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram from my weekly video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
To celebrate joining Pantheon Podcasts, Rock Camp, the podcast, the official podcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, is giving away a guitar signed by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth, and legendary shredder Zakk Wylde, plus our rockstar counselors like Vinny Appice, Monty Pittman, and more. To enter to win, simply follow, rate, and review our podcast on your preferred platform, and that's all you have to do. For more information, go to rockcamp.com/podcast.